Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Shu Allegra, founder of Grace and Hope Consulting, and we've been having conversation around resilience. Everything we do here at Grace and Hope Consulting is evolves around resilience. And I've been inviting some new friends to the conversation. And today I have Kevin with me. Kevin, do you mind just letting us know who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Kevin Lowe, and I am a host of my own podcast called the Lowe Down with Kevin Lowe, and I am
Love it.
also a life coach. And
Uh,
yeah,
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Kevin. I love the name. I love the play in words there. You know, how, your podcast title. That
exactly.
is awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit, we said by being a life coach, how do you help people as a life coach? Because there's different, niches, people focus on different things in life coaching. So what does that look like for you?
Of course, of course. So the life coach, and honestly the podcast also, both kind of came about because of me being blind. And
Mm-hmm.
so I became blind when I was 17 years old. I was a junior in high school, and it was something that totally unexpectedly happened. I found out that I had a brain tumor,
Mm-hmm.
and I went into surgery to have it removed. Said that it was luckily it was not cancerous, but it was needing to be removed immediately. It was pressing against my carotid artery,
Wow,
and so they literally said I had 6 months to live.
wow, wow.
And so, but I was assured by the doctors, the surgeons, that everything was fine, that they'd go in, they'd remove the tumor, and I'd be back to school in like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into surgery, and that's basically, as I kind of like to say, where my life kind of stopped and a new life began, because my
Mm-hmm.
life was saved, but I awoke from surgery to be left completely blind.
Wow, wow.
And and so this new life, the life after going blind, it's not any better or any worse than the life
Mm-hmm.
with sight. It's just different. And
Yeah.
so and so the podcast and now life coaching all stem around this thing of me learning to see life from a different view.
Yes.
And so as a life coach, my thing is working with those who have suffered some type of life-changing disability,
Mhm.
even medical diagnosis, illness, something that's stolen someone's life from them, and they're trying
Mm.
to regain control, and they want to take back life, but they don't know the steps to take. And so
Yeah.
that's what I do as a life coach, is working with them.
That is, thank you first of all for sharing your story. Wow, like
Yes.
your story screams resilience from, start to finish, right? Start to finish. Yeah, I can't imagine at 17, or most of us, it's at 17, you're full of dreams, or what, like you're just 1 year to get out of high school and become an adult, and you like all the things you could accomplish, and then all that change. You're still accomplishing great things, right? Like and I love your perspective on
Exactly.
it. It's not better or worse, it's different. But at
Exactly.
17, this is not what you envisioned, and here you are. Like, how many years ago was that?
It was 18 years ago. 18
Wow,
years ago,
wow.
which, I'll be honest, time's a really weird thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I had that 17-year anniversary,
Mm.
that was really strange, because at that moment it marked the time that I had been blind as long as I had been able to see.
Wow,
And
wow.
and even now, I mean, now, it's been, 18 years since then. So I've actually now know this world, this life better without sight than I did with it. Yet,
Mm, mm.
yet that still seems almost impossible. And I think because there's so much living that you do as those childhood years growing up, developing, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah, yeah.
so as my family often teases, that I'm the most sighted blind person you'll ever see. And the fact that that they hate going shopping with me for clothes. And because they'll be telling me that, oh, well, this is a nice shirt. I'm like, okay, well, what does it look like? Oh, it's
Mhm.
blue. Okay, well, what shade of blue? Oh, no, I don't like that. No, I don't. And so I can't tell you how many times I'll be shopping and there will be other people in the store, and I won't know that these people are kind of giving us the side-eyed stare, but it
Mhm.
will be whoever I'm with. Generally, it's like my mom or my sister, and one
Mhm.
of them will look at them and catch them staring and be like, he can see before. That's why he's so picky. And so, and that's what my sister, my sweet sister, she always says. She said, "You're the pickiest damn blind person I ever met in my life. Just
Only
it
a
looks
sister can
good."
say that. Only a sister can say that with all the love and sass in it, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. But that brings a good point though. It's like, even for our friends who maybe were born blind, it's not often we dismiss people's abilities, right? I do a lot of work, and
Yes.
that's why I love your story. I wanted to connect with you because, in addition to what I do with, counseling and coaching, or consulting, I am a rehabilitation counselor. And that's what I trained for my postgraduate program,
Okay.
and so I work with people with disabilities. I am a person with disability. My children, like my loved one, I'm a caregiver for people with different abilities, and so for
Yes.
me it's people seeing our strengths outside of of what we call disabilities, right? Outside of our
Exactly.
challenges. Yes, you can still be
Exactly.
sassy and give your sister a hard time because that's how
Yep.
Kevin is. Kevin Whipple with our side, Kevin is Kevin, and he knows what he
Yep.
wants, and has should have the right to decide what he wants to wear, right? And it's
Exactly.
yeah, and it's kind of keeping the humanity of all of us, no matter
Yep.
what shape or form, or format, it is that we come, we present ourselves. So thanks for
Exactly.
bringing that. But I like with
Of
your story, it's like it happened at 17. It changed, definitely changed your life. This is a new life, like you say, you're living, and it's a
yes.
different life. But instead of letting it crush you, you turn that into something positive. That's the resilience. It's like not just for me. Now, how can I help others along the way?
You know,
And so
it,
I'm sure
it,
there's a lot of emotions in that process. You just want to take us like how you went from, oh, this is so this is hard, to I can make something out of this.
exactly. And that's what I always say is I say that something it's only bad, a situation's only bad if you can't figure out a way to make good out of it.
Mm,
And
mm,
and that's what I look at for me with my story is what happened to me, and I've said this forever. What happened to me happened for a reason. And I
mm,
like to say it happened for a good reason.
mm,
And that good reason for me, there's many different, little things that I can see that I can see good out of it. But one of the
mm.
biggest is that I believe my faith is a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And I believe in all my heart that God knew I would serve a greater purpose on this earth
Mm,
having gone through what I did than if I hadn't.
mm,
And when I really started to understand that was getting to start speaking at schools.
wow.
And I started speaking at have a couple of teachers who have me speak to their little kids. There's one teacher who does a combined kindergarten and first grade students.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And then I have a middle school teacher who has me speak to her classes.
mm,
And when speaking with them, I mean, up front when I'm up in front of the room, it's amazing. I love it. I love talking, sharing my story. The older kids, I share my story and I share about the importance of still being friends with people who have had something happen, or who
mm-hmm,
are quote unquote different than everyone else.
mm-hmm.
But then, the little kids, of course, them, I don't talk about that stuff as much as just make myself out to be like a blind superhero. And and
You got
so
superpowers for sure.
exactly. But I tell you what's cool about it is there's been a couple of different instances. And so the little kids, I will be out at restaurants, at the grocery store, and generally, with my mom or somebody, my mom will be like, I have a feeling that little kid must have been in the class you just talked to. Cause they'll be staring and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, Mr. Kevin, you spoke to my class. And
Yeah.
it's so cool that they come up and say hello.
Yeah.
And then it's, even though, like, I had an instance one year when I talked to the middle school students, where the teacher pulled me aside afterwards and told me that one of the girls in the class, and she was the girl who, asked so many questions, was very
Mm,
intrigued.
mm.
She told me, she's like, that girl, she said, I just found out that she's homeless.
Oh.
And she said, and she was the one who she had warned me about prior to me speaking,
Mm,
without telling me, but she just told me there's going to be one student who might give us some trouble. And so
mm.
apparently she's the
She's dealing
bad
with
kid in
life
class,
hard stuff. Yeah.
but she connected, and so she
Yeah.
was the one
Yeah.
who was the most drawn in. And so I said, from that point, that's when I really knew,
Mm,
wow, I can really maybe impact people's lives
mm.
simply by sharing my story.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Kevin. Like what you said there just hit me really hard. God knew that I would make a bigger impact being blind than if I wasn't.
exactly.
The just the maturity, the faith, the gratitude that stem from that, it are just so powerful. Through
Yeah,
a lot of the other interviews I've been doing, and we all agree gratitude is such a big part of resilience, but then also finding purpose and meaning in the things that we go through.
yes,
My story a little different than yours, but I find, it connects so well in so many ways, and
yes.
part of what launched this whole series of resilience interview is a book that my friends and I wrote called Be Resilient. And I opened the chapter kind of sharing what I do now, this whole business that I have that, we're all proud and, proud of and like, and but see how everything I've been through led me to this. I
Yep,
had to be a caregiver to people with disability, to want to help people with disability and work in that community. I had to become disabled myself in order to appreciate, and make an impact in a
yes,
different way. Yeah, the extra degrees and all that are good, but that connection you make at that personal level because of your story has more impact, gives more life than anything I could ever learn in school, right? Or any degree I could have.
ex-
It makes a huge
exactly.
difference. It makes a huge difference. And
Yes.
so I definitely I'm gonna hold on to that and kind of, keep sharing it with others if I have a permission. Just, sometimes,
Yeah,
sometimes we can, if we start seeing that if we can acknowledge that we can make a bigger impact, have a bigger and much more influence, in the challenges that we face than if we did not go through it. That changes the perspective, that changes that purpose, that keeps you going. At the end
yes.
of the day, it's like, yes, I can get up, see or not see, I can keep pushing because there's a little girl, there's a little boy, there's, a man or woman somewhere, an individual somewhere who needs this story, to keep pushing as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll share something with you out
Yeah.
also that I don't always share all the time, but again, it's a big part of my story. And so when I was in the hospital, the type of tumor I had was pretty rare.
Mm,
To be honest, when we found out that I had a brain tumor, I never heard of anyone having brain tumors at that point. And
mm,
and yet, and the doctors, said that it was so crazy that it had went undiagnosed for all of my life.
wow.
And because I had so many symptoms leading up. And so, anyways, while I was in the hospital, there was another boy my same exact age with the
Mm.
same brain tumor.
Wow.
And his name was John. And John didn't get to come home.
Oh.
And and so I don't remember any of that time in the hospital. My last
Mm-hmm.
memory is rolling into the doors of the operating room, and then from that point forward I don't remember anything. And but my family and I have, thankfully, a huge family support, and they were
Mm-hmm.
all at the hospital the whole 2 weeks that I was there in the ICU. and
Mm-hmm.
and they got to know John's mom
Mm-hmm.
very well, and she was there basically alone with her son. and
Wow.
um
Wow.
and like I said, John didn't get to come home.
Yeah.
And so when I think about life, and I've had at times, this person who I didn't even know, yet, there's times when I felt so guilty. Like,
mm,
why did
mm,
my
mm,
mom get to keep me and his
mm,
mom didn't? And
mm,
yet at the same time, he's also something deep in my heart that I keep as a driving force of,
mm,
you know
mhm.
what, I'm living for both of us now.
Yeah, yeah.
And more impacts that I can make, because there's more people out there like John, like
Mm,
me, who are going through hard times, who could really benefit from some positive energy, somebody who knows what they're going through, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And so that's just another little piece of my story,
Mm,
that, you know, I'm like, that's right, God. Like, I I was made for more. I was made to keep
mm,
pushing forward. You chose me for whatever the reason,
mm.
fair or not fair. You chose me, and so now I want to do all that I can, you know,
Yeah,
to make my creator proud.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're for the people listening and watching. We're recording this on a Sunday, and I feel like I'm already in church. You know, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm already in church. You know, do what we can to make a creator proud, and it's at the, you know, and oh my goodness. So I was never planning to share my story, but my
Yeah.
life altering situation, the most recent at least, you know, was 4 years ago, when I had a stroke at the age of 33, and my
Wow.
sight was impacted. I have most of it back, but I still struggle with some peripheral vision, and there's issue with lighting and weird. I took the nerve,
Yes.
so, the my optical nerve was impacted by the stroke. So, but long story
Wow.
short, when I came out of that, I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, and I had to go to facility, to learn to do all this thing, and then go home. People had to come home and take care of me. I couldn't bathe myself, right? And then,
Yes.
years and years of therapy, and I'm still, I was in a wheelchair, for briefly, and then a walker for, one of those rollator walker that has like a chair in the middle for years,
Yes.
and not until just, I don't know, even a year ago. So, finally transitioned to a regular cane. But even with the cane, I still have issues and weakness in my left leg. And as of 2 days ago from this, we're recording this, I actually was work for a neurosurgeon, and now they're trying to do a spinal cord implant to help me
Oh,
get more mobility. But I'll
wow.
share that to kind of give a background, just a little bit of background with what I'm going to share next. So at that
Okay.
same time as I went through that, one of my very good friends from my church, he was a little older, a little older than me. Her husband had a brain tumor, and he had had a stroke, was already had surgery, and then from that surgery had few strokes and was in the hospital. And then we ended up in the same rehabilitation center, at
Okay.
facility, after my incident. And then we both came home eventually. um
Okay.
I Now I'm able to, I was able to drive for so many years. Now I can drive. I'm doing the work that I do. He went home and got a lot of, that lot of support, but eventually passed. And it was just like you, was that day, when I couldn't make it to the funeral, just like, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes, I had an event, and that, I had to go speak out, but I'm like, I wanted to be there to support my friend, which eventually we connected, and then before and after and all that. But the point was that, just like you, why did I get to live and he had to go? His family needed him as well.
Yep.
And this moment, especially for us people face, this moment that we don't always understand everything on this side of heaven, right?
Yep.
And it's so easy to ask all the whys. But
Yep.
then when, like you say, when our faith is secure, we can say like you, I'm here for a reason. Whatever that reason
Yes.
is, I need to find it, and then I need to fulfill it in order to make my creator proud. And that's the same
Exactly.
mentality that I've been taking. And although I never even shared this with my friend, there are days where I woke up and I say, I have to live for Luke.
Yes.
I have to live for Luke, because now it's just going to get emotional, because there's,
Yes.
there are a lot of Johns and Lukes out there, right? Who
Yep.
don't, none of us, like for me, it was that moment when I'm like, wow, life is so fragile. I was doing all the things, and having life that I enjoy. I enjoy my life, but it's in a very, very powerful way. What you said made sense. My life is now worse or better. It's different, but I also, just like you, realize in the past 4 years, I've had more impact in people's lives than I ever did the previous 30 some years prior to that. And
Yep.
people say, well, just that from a stroke. I say, well, it was not just a stroke, everything that came with it.
Yes.
Losing, the ability to care for myself allowed me to be humble, right?
Yes. Yes.
And create a no different level of empathy. Although I was doing this work already and work with people with different abilities, but create a different level of empathy. And I connect with people at a
Yep.
different level because like I've been there. I don't take life for granted anymore. It's like
Yes.
every moment matters, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. Like people say that, but it's until you actually go through an experience that like shatters, your whole view
Yeah.
of life, then you're like, whoa, I'm fragile as human. I am fragile. And so the fact that I'm still here means that this second here, never just a minute, this second here is meaningful. I need to enjoy it to the fullest and make it the best it needs to be. It really changes your
Abs-
perspective, really.
Absolutely. Totally. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And so walk me a little bit. Like I know for me, I went for a lot of emotions. Like I knew I was still here for a reason. I was grateful to still be here and see my kids. My kids are young. I mean, now my youngest is 8. So back then it was just 4. So like I'm grateful that I'm here to see them grow. And at the same time, I had so many emotions when all this happened, right? It's like the anger, the fear, the confusion, the sadness, like. So if you don't mind, Kevin, if it's okay with you, just kind of walk us through when all this happened and when as you're adjusting to this new life, this different life, how was that like emotionally? How was that spiritually? I know yet now right now, with what you're sharing, I totally believe you and resonate with that. Like you are making your creator proud. But I'm sure, there was a transition where you're just like, I'm gonna make my creator proud, but right now I don't like this. I've been there. I don't like this. I trust you guys, but I don't like this.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No. It it was a process.
Mm-hmm.
For because not only did I just become blind, I had many other medical issues.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my sense of smell
Uh,
also. So I can't smell, I can't see. Also the brain tumor, it it had completely encased my pituitary gland. And
mm,
so the pituitary controls all of your hormones.
yeah.
And so I had to, start taking, all these new medicines. I had short-term memory loss for 6 months after
Mm,
surgery. It was just nothing was going right. And
mm,
so for the first however long, you could say that me and my family, it was basically survival mode,
yeah.
just going through the motions of surviving. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then, you come to that point where, well, I'll say this to the outside world, everybody saw Kevin as, wow, he's so uplifting, he's so positive, he's so
Mm-hmm.
happy, he's
So strong.
smiling,
Yeah.
you know. But the only people who ever really saw my sad times, mainly my mom, my grandmother, who I call Nana, and then
Mm-hmm.
my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people that so many nights would be spent me just sobbing in bed,
Mm-hmm.
sobbing, whether that was in my bed alone, in bed with my mom who heard me crying, who came in there and laid with
Mm-hmm.
me, whether it was me going into my sister's room,
Mm-hmm.
where I laid in her bed and we cried together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it was hard. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, my life was taken. I mean, I had a big beautiful Ford truck I had gotten when I turned
Mm,
16.
mm.
I
You
grew up
only had it for
riding
a year.
only a year,
Yeah.
and I grew up riding dirt bikes and four-wheelers,
Mm,
and everything that I loved was taken.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
excuse me. And and so it was a huge life change. And then it was just literally, as I said, I was literally plunged into a world of darkness.
Mm,
And no matter how many times I would blink, no matter how hard I would pray, how hard I would cry, I'd open my eyes in the morning and I'd still see the same thing as I did when they were closed.
mm,
And it was hard, but God was always there with me.
mm,
And um he I was a kid who I hated school. I'd rather be sick with the flu at home
You
than
sound
I
like
would
my
be,
son.
yeah, than I would want to be at school.
Mhm.
Yet, then why in the world was it? Here it was that this happened. My surgery was like 2 months into my junior year of high school.
Wow, wow.
I should have taken the get out of school free card and not
Mm,
had any desire to push forward.
mm,
Yet from the very beginning, my family will tell you that from the very start, I kept saying, I want to get back to school because I want to be able to still graduate with my
mm,
class.
mm, mm,
I want to graduate with my class. And
mm,
so through it all, um, I had these teachers who came to my house each day. My mom would actually drop me off at my grandparents' house where I would stay with my nana, and I'd
mhm,
have teachers who came who taught me my school subjects.
mm,
And I caught up with my schoolwork. I never went back to school the rest of that junior year,
mhm.
but I caught up with it all that I made it back to school for the start of my senior year.
Wow, wow.
And I went back for just one class a day. The rest I did at home with these same
Mhm.
teachers. And I ultimately walked across the stage at my high school graduation, graduated with my class.
Awesome.
And I say right then that that was one of those pivotal moments that I didn't realize this till years and years later.
Mm,
That right then, that was God showing me that, Kevin, you can still accomplish great things
yeah,
in
yeah.
this new life. And after graduation, for a long time, life was, kind of just, again, survival. It was going through the motions of all the things that the quote unquote professionals at the blind center
Mm,
said that I
mm,
should be doing.
mm.
Yet it was me finding my own way and having to
Yes.
grieve and having to heal in my own
Mm,
time, not
mm.
as fast as what they told my parents I should be doing.
Right, right.
But it was me. And gradually, the as I say, unfortunately, time is the true healer.
Mhm, mhm,
And as the years went by, I cried less.
mhm.
And today, now 18 years later, thank goodness that the days of being sad, of crying, are very few and far
Mhm,
between.
mhm.
Um, and so it allows you to keep moving forward, and so it was as the years went on, and I got to do new things, try new things, and started my own business. I had a
Mm.
travel agency that I started in 2013,
Nice.
um, that I operated up until basically 2020,
Okay.
when the pandemic hit. And but that was great. Again, I got to build a business. I got to book travel. I got
Yeah.
to travel myself and do all these amazing things. And it just kept going. And
Mhm,
and that was big for me. And now, in these past 2 years, my life, it's kind of entered a new chapter where I
mhm,
closed the chapter on my travel business, entered into this new realm again, finding deeper and deeper purpose into what
mm.
I'm really meant to be doing, what my gifts truly are,
Yeah.
and so it's like this, just like kind of beautiful natural progression, that
Mhm,
I've been
mhm.
on, that it's just life. And when I look back on my life, I'm so blessed because I can see how from the time I was born, everything in my life has fit together like pieces to a puzzle.
Mm,
They
mhm.
said that the type of tumor that I had was something that was with me from the very beginning. It was where
Wow,
during development, a
wow.
cell, whatever, went to the wrong place. And so I can see, though, where the first 17 years of my life were all in preparation for what was to come.
Mm, mm,
God allowed me to do so many different things. I got to travel. I got to go to Alaska and see Alaska. I got to go down to the Florida Keys and
mm,
go out fishing and see all of this stuff. I rode dirt bikes. I went
mm, mm,
surfing. I
mm.
All these amazing opportunities, things I got to do all because of what he knew was what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And even the personalities traits that he gave me, he made me a positive person from, as a kid growing
Yeah.
up. He made me a very organized person, which I can say that lends its hand tremendously after then you lose your sight
Yeah, can you only
and
imagine? Yeah.
stuff. And so all of these things I can look back and I can see all the way back to being in middle school, being in 7th grade. I would go over to my Nana's house in the morning. My mom would drop me off, and my mom would go into work, and Nana would cook breakfast, and I'd hang out at her house until it was time to go to middle school. And it was during that time that I came to know Jesus. That
Mm-hmm.
in my Nana's living room, I accepted Jesus into my life.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
I never could have imagined what a gift I was given on that morning
Mm-hmm.
until I lost my eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's, I think, really awesome is I've seen through my life since I went blind what a deeper relationship I've got to have with my creator.
Yeah.
And I do, and I'm so blessed to just get to connect with God and with Jesus in such a deep level of just truly walking by faith, guided, as I say, guided by faith, not by sight,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just trusting in him and knowing that there's a purpose for my life. It just drives me forward. And honestly, it just has me so eager to see, what tomorrow will bring.
Yeah. 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 Oh, thanks for sharing. Like so much wisdom in that. That even when resilience is not the absence of of all the feelings we mentioned, right? There's still grief that we go through, even in being resilient. That is actually part of the process. It's acknowledging, okay, that I have
Exactly.
these losses that I need to grieve. And it does not make me less, than anyone else. It doesn't make this experience, the end of me. It just makes it what it is. Just
Exactly.
I'm giving what I lost. And then, as we grieve, it helps us kind of, heal, recover from kind of the emotional toll of all of it, and then bounce back a
Exactly.
little stronger. Because then after I'm done grieving, while I'm grieving, I can start seeing the little glimpse of like, oh, there's goodness coming out of this somehow. Because I
Exactly.
allow myself to feel because some we don't realize that when we numb the body emotions, per se, as we call it. I don't think there's a body emotion. I don't like talking that way, but those uncomfortable, there you go. When we numb the uncomfortable emotion, we're also numbing the positive one, the comfortable ones. It's the same channels in your brains. I use this process both. So then if we allow ourselves just to kind of be mindful of what we're feeling, then we can experience more of both. And that's what it means to be human. Those feelings, emotions are there for a reason. God created us as
Exactly.
human being with all of them. So it's okay to be sad that this happened, but also then be grateful, like you are, for that. Wow, I get to do all these other things that I would not be able to do if it did not happen. And even to look back and see, wow, God knew that something was going to happen and allow me to experience all the things I could see, and have those memories and hold on to those memories. And so that's so beautiful. And that's also to grieve at your own pace. We think that,
Yes.
when we go through a debilitating condition like this, it's like people are like, well, it's been 3 years, it's been 4 years. My 4th-year anniversary of the stroke, I was an emotional mess. And mind
Yes.
you, I'm a counselor. Like, I have all this,
Yes.
I did all this
Yes.
training to manage emotions, and I could manage my own. I could manage my
Yes.
own. I text further, like, you guys pray. I went to church that Sunday. So it would have been on the Monday then for that 4th anniversary. Went to church that Sunday, just feeling off. I'm like, I feel down. I don't know why. And then I just felt like down to where I was depressed, and I couldn't I couldn't stop crying the rest of the day. And it wasn't until it hit me. I'm like, oh, tomorrow's the anniversary. And so
Yep.
sometimes, like, we might try to forget, but our minds don't forget. It's just like when someone passes away, like when the important dates are hard, right? The holidays are hard because it's a reminder that person is not there. Those
Yep.
anniversaries for those big events, even events that that are not always so positive in the moment. Those are big. Those anniversary becomes a reminder that something has happened to me that shifted my life. And so you
Yep.
had, I had to grieve all over again, to grieve that even after
Exactly.
4 years, I still don't have my body's not the same. It might never be the same. Right. And just like you, all those things internally that nobody knows about, like all the muscles internally that don't work,
Yep.
how like I'm the youngest person at my urology, the urologist upon the clinic, because I have issues, from muscles not working the way they should, because of the stroke. There's people don't see that. Like you said, people's like, oh, you're so strong, you're so good, like you're doing well, you look well. And sometimes I want to smack people upside the head. I don't look well, I don't feel well. All my
Exactly.
insides been
Exactly.
shattered. Nothing inside works well,
Yes.
Yes, I can shower and dress and look like I'm okay, but like internally, I have all these things that are not working the way they're supposed to, or the way they were working before. But then it's finding the grace in that. Like, how can I give myself grace that my body might not be what it was back then, but my body's still serving a purpose right now. I'm still living out my
Yes.
purpose, and my body still functioning its own way, and just seeing the beauty in that and learning to do things differently,
Yep.
and it's a process. All
Exactly.
of this, all that we're talking about, like resilience is a process. All the feelings are allowed. You can have they'll have the comfortable and uncomfortable feelings, embracing all of it, and just still knowing that if I'm still here, I still have a purpose to fulfill, and kind of pursuing that,
Abs-
finding out what that purpose is, and then pursuing it with everything you got, everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I just love your story, and I'm so, so grateful that you took the time to do this with me, but also just grateful for all that you do. So, it's gonna wrap this up. I want you to share how people can connect with you, where they can hear the podcast, and when they can, partner with you for life coaching, and and be so that you can support them and teach them all the things you've learned, even like how to run a business. People think like you're blind and you're running a travel business. Like, come on, right?
Yep.
You have to
Yep.
think outside the box to have to get to that point. So things like that. And I'm just, kind of putting a plug there for other people who have different abilities. Maybe that's an area too that Kevin can help you figure out how to start a business in spite of what people think you can or cannot do. Prove them wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that's what is when we have something with some type of disability, whatever, we society and even the realm of the disability you have, they try and put you in a hole,
Mm-hmm.
of what you're capable of. And it's been a big thing of mine to totally break out of that hole. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what I'm like, I want to do things like when I started a travel business. You can book travel when you're blind? Yep, sure
Yep.
can. You know, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that's just awesome. But thank you for this opportunity. Like I said, it is a mission of mine to share my story as many times as I possibly can,
Mm-hmm.
in the hope that somebody somewhere in the world can hear even just a piece of what I have to say, and that it can positively impact their life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is the goal of my podcast. My podcast, it's called The Lowe Down with Kevin Lowe.
Mm-hmm.
You can find it anywhere that you listen to podcasts, plus even just by visiting my website, which is
Mm-hmm.
literally just the lowdown with kevinlowe.com.
Okay.
As I tell everybody, just be sure you're spelling lowdown correctly, and that's with an E. So LOWE,
Mm-hmm.
and then DWN. But that is my podcast. My podcast is rocking and rolling. The biggest thing, if you come to my podcast, just come with an open mind to let
Mm-hmm.
yourself be inspired,
Mm-hmm.
to take back control of life. That
Mm-hmm.
is the purpose of my podcast, is shining light on the positive side of life. By sharing the stories of ordinary people, living out extraordinary lives,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming challenges, obstacles, all in the goal to inspire you, the listener, to do the same in your own life.
Yeah.
And so that's the podcast. And then yes, life coaching, you can find that on the same website, or you can also just go to kevinlowecoaching.com.
Okay.
We'll take you right to the page. And again, you can learn more about the different coaching packages that I offer. And there's even a button there that you can, go ahead and book a free 15-minute coaching call.
Mhm.
Awesome opportunity for you to get to meet me, meet you, and maybe work through a little problem that you have going on in your life, and maybe see how I can continue to be a help to you.
Mhm.
From there. But as I said, my biggest, it's just this whole mission to just make good out of what was supposed to have been bad.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and that's why I said, I'm gifted with the opportunity that I can see life differently. And that's where that's where the podcast, when I interview people, that's what's awesome about podcasting, the world of audio, is the fact that I
Mhm.
say when people listen to a podcast, everybody's blind.
Mhm.
And so my goal is to
Ooh.
let people who listen to my podcast see the world and to see the guests from
Mhm.
through my eyes.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and so that's what I just love about it. And again, I'm super excited to have gotten to be here today. And I just thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin. And definitely for everyone listening, we encourage you, go click on that link, go check his website, listen to the podcast. I know I'm going right now to subscribe, and so that I can be listening to it. And definitely, take him up on that coaching call. I'll be sure to share it, pass it along with others as I encounter them and work with them. But thank you for shining your light on this earth and making a difference in so many ways.
Thank you.
All right, for everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And we hope that this, like all the other interviews, encourage you to find your purpose, to build your resilience, and to know that you are here for a reason. And we are grateful that you're here, and we can't wait to see you make your creator proud. Be well.